It was a warm, beautiful day in the early evening in Butler Township in the great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Music was loudly playing, and the campaign was doing really well. I went to the stage, and the crowd was cheering wildly. Everybody was happy. I began speaking very strongly, powerfully, and happily, because I was discussing the great job my administration did on immigration at the southern border. We were very proud of it. Behind me and to the right was a large screen that was displaying a chart of border crossings under my leadership. The numbers were absolutely amazing. In order to see the chart, I started to, like this, turn to my right and was ready to begin a little bit further turn, which I'm very lucky I didn't do, when I heard a loud whizzing sound and felt something hit me really, really hard on my right ear. I said to myself, wow, what was that? It can only be a bullet. And moved my right hand to my ear, brought it down. My hand was covered with blood. I immediately knew it was very serious, that we were under attack, and in one movement proceeded to drop to the ground. Bullets were continuing to fly as very brave Secret Service agents rushed to the stage, and they really did. They rushed to the stage. These are great people, and pounced on top of me so that I would be protected. There was blood pouring everywhere, and yet, in a certain way, I felt very safe because I had God on my side. I felt that. The amazing thing is that prior to the shot, if I had not moved my head at that very last instant, the assassin's bullet would have perfectly hit its mark, and I would not be here tonight. We would not be together. Bullets were flying over us, yet I felt serene. And then it all stopped. Our Secret Service sniper, from a much greater distance and with only one bullet used, took the assassin's life, took him out. I'm not supposed to be here tonight. Not supposed to be here. Thank you. But I'm not. And I'll tell you, I stand before you in this arena only by the grace of Almighty God.
Welcome to High Cheese. It's Friday, July 19th, 2024. And I wanted to play a clip from the man that was shot this weekend. And I'm not going to play any other clips regarding the horrors that took place on Saturday in Butler, Pennsylvania. I wanted you to hear what happened from the man himself, from the man that was shot for this country, to save this country. And if there's anything that we can take away from this, is that this is a man of divine providence. And I'm not saying he's perfect. Throughout history, there have been people that have not been perfect, that have been used by God. And I think Donald Trump is one of them. He had the hand of God on him Saturday. And, you know, people live their lives, take care of their kids, go to school, do their job. And sometimes those things take people away from God. And look what happened to our country because of this. And this man is bringing us back. And in a way, God's showing us you got to go back to serving God, and then we will be blessed again. And I think many more American people are going to realize this because of Saturday. And it doesn't matter what religion they are, Jewish, Hindu, Muslim. They're now getting it. They know that there is something special about this man. And it took an act of God to protect him. And Trump realizes this. And he's reaching out to the other people that don't like him, people on the other side of the political spectrum. He wants to bring them all in for America. And God wants a strong America. So with that said, I wanted to go to a clip where he it reaches out. This country is not just for those that are going to vote for Trump. This is for everyone. So let's go to this clip, and then we'll come back and discuss.
Thank you, Mr. Governor. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm here tonight to lay out a vision for the whole nation, to every citizen, whether you're a young or old man or woman, Democrat, Republican, or independent, black or white, Asian or Hispanic. I extend to you a hand of loyalty and of friendship. Together we will lead America to new heights of greatness like the world has never seen before. We were right there in the first term.
And then he went on to say that there is no victory in winning for half the country. We've got to have the whole country unified behind Donald Trump. Now, that's not going to happen because there's still hate out there. And you still have to continue to pray for Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, because there is still evil out there, and there are forces out there that do not want Donald Trump to exist. And then Trump went on and challenged Joe Biden or the Democrats, whoever is going to be in the nominee. If you really want to unify this country, drop the lawfare, drop the hate speech, stop calling Donald Trump a threat to democracy when you are the threat to democracy. And that's the challenge for the Democrats. What are they going to do? Now, again, a month from now, the media is going to be out there attacking Donald Trump, trying to portray Donald Trump as something bad for this country. Democrats are going to do it too. But it comes down to their voter, whether their voters are going to listen to the nonsense coming out of the media and coming out of the Democrat Party. And that's who Donald Trump is speaking to. Now let's talk about J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance was a very good pick. Now, some people are saying, well, he was critical of Donald Trump early on. And now he's on board. And how many Americans were like J.D. Vance that were critical of this and then found out that this guy knows what he's talking about? He's been right. And the one thing I really like about J.D. Vance is that even through his criticism of Donald Trump in the past, his positions have always been America first. Trade policy that protects the middle class, programs that help the middle class, lower taxes for the middle class. Not necessarily the elites, but for the middle class. And you look at JD's background, he understands what being an American is. A lot of these big donors, a lot of these people in the media, they have absolutely no clue what it is to be an American. J.D. Vance does. Look, now we all know that the Democrat Party is in disarray right now. They don't know whether they're going to swap Biden out or not, or they don't know how to do it and have a legitimate shot at winning the presidency. But they'll recoup, and they will give us a formidable challenge. So this is not over. I don't want people thinking out there, Trump's going to win. I don't have to vote on election day. You still have to vote. You got to get your friends out to vote. You got to do what needs to be done to win. This election is still months away. And a lot can happen. The Democrats are going to do everything they can to try to win because it's all about power for them. So remember that. And while I'm on the subject, if there's just a suggestion I can have to people that are going to vote in November, just think about what you want to do on Election Day. Do you want to vote early? My suggestion is that if you can vote early, vote early. Don't wait for Election Day for this to happen, because I'm sure they have some kind of plans to create chaos on Election Day to tamp down the Trump vote. So just start thinking about it. Find out where early voting places are. If you want to vote with a mail-in ballot, think about that. But to me, if there's any recommendations, just try to avoid voting on Election Day, because I still see the potential for chaos, and the Democrats thrive in chaos. Evil thrives in chaos. Okay, let's talk about this investigation into the assassination attempt on Donald Trump. Where are we? What kind of questions do we have? And I got a couple of questions. And I'm sure you have the same questions I have. First question that jumps out at me is, how could they let that roof unattended? 130 yards from Donald Trump, and it was left unattended by the Secret Service. That's like a chip shot on the golf course. And no one was on the roof. And here's what I find shocking. The head of the Secret Service's response to this was just shocking. She should be fired. Just for those two answers that I'm going to give you. She should be fired. Now, the first thing she does, she takes this bureaucratic mentality. Well, it wasn't the Secret Service's responsibility to cover the roof. It was the sheriff's office responsibility, not the Secret Service's. Really? So the head of the Secret Service that's in charge of protecting the president isn't taking responsibility? You are responsible for taking care of Donald Trump. It's your responsibility to make sure somebody is on the roof. And when somebody's not, don't blame it on them. Blame it on yourself, because you had to make sure that somebody was on the roof. So then the sheriff comes out and says, no, we were never told. It wasn't our responsibility to make sure that the roof was protected. Oh, okay, that wasn't the right answer, so let me throw this out there. Then she says, well, we didn't want to put anyone on the roof for safety concerns because it was a sloped roof. Did you take a look at that roof? Maybe it was a 10-degree roof. I'm sure you could have a square dance on the roof. It was much closer to being flat than it was to being a real incline. And it leads us to the question of whether this is negligent or whether it was intentional. And right now, with what we know, everything's on the table right now. But what we do know is that this person should resign. She couldn't do her job. But this is the mentality of the people in Washington. They want unaccountable bureaucrats. They want unaccountable government. Nobody's really in charge. Nobody's really responsible. And it goes hand in hand with the mentality that we want to control your life. Don't question us. But this is the type of government that Donald Trump is fighting. No one's accountable. You got arrogant people in there pursuing their own agenda, whether it's nefarious or not, but it's just comical, this response. Oh, we don't want to put any police or Secret Service agents up there. The slope's too steep on the roof. Well, take it. Well, did you see the picture of the snipers behind Donald Trump? The incline of that roof was much steeper than the roof that the shooter was on. That's just shocking. We should all be shocked. The other thing I want to know is this shooter was on the radar screen for, I think, anywhere from a half hour to an hour before the rally started. So with that said, why didn't they just delay the rally? Say, hey, Mr. President, we got a suspicious person out on the perimeter. Let's hold off for a half hour till we check this guy out. get rid of them or whatever has to be done. But they knew this. And they went forward with the rally anyway. I want to know who was in charge of making that decision. Who was the person on the ground responsible for that decision? And what was that person, and who was that person answering to? That's what I want to know. And then we find out later that, oh, yeah, there were snipers there, but they were in the other building in a window, but they weren't on the roof. So there's a lot of questions that have to be answered. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about is this patrolman from Butler. And apparently he's been catching some heat. And right now I think it's a little unfair until we know a little more what went on. So apparently, and this is what gets me, is that all the rally goers, they were the ones to alert all the cops saying, hey, look, there's a guy on the roof. There's a guy on the roof. He's got a gun. They're the ones that alerted law enforcement to the guy being on the roof. So this patrolman who was on traffic detail. Now, with these type of rallies and security for these type of rallies, along with the Secret Service, you have local cops, county cops, either sheriffs or county police, and state police. So this one patrolman, he was on traffic detail. That was their responsibility for the day. And people were coming up to him and saying, hey, look, there's a guy on the roof. So he went over to the roof and he got on the shoulders of another patrolman, peeked up over the roof, and he saw the guy. And the guy turned around and pointed his gun at him. He was not in a position to engage the guy. He just wasn't. And think about that. You're a patrolman. You're on the shoulders of another patrolman. You're peeking up over the roof. And you got this guy pointing a gun at you. You just would not be able to get off a shot. And he jumped down. And he raided it in. The only thing I just question is, why didn't he just shoot a couple of rounds into the ground just to alert everybody? Because he apparently notified everyone on the radio that they used, the frequency that they all used. And it would have been a much quicker alert if he just shot a couple of rounds into the ground just to say, hey, look, cover up the president. Don't let this guy get a couple of shots off. But I think right now, some people are being a little too hard on this guy. And again, what's really bothering me is that it took the rally goers to let everyone know that this guy was on the roof. Not anyone from Secret Service, other members of law enforcement. And that's really troubling. Now, apparently the FBI is going to investigate this. Oh, I have a lot of confidence in this. And thank goodness for cell phones, because so much of this is documented. It puts the government in a position where they can't cover this up. Now, they'll try. Because among these people in the C-suites, it's all about protecting their agency. And they'll mislead, they'll withhold evidence in order to protect the agency. Because it's not about you and me, it's about them. And now you've got the government leaking certain things to the media in order to try to manipulate the narrative, create the narrative that benefits the government. And one of those leaks was that apparently there was a threat to Donald Trump by Iran. They wanted to kill Donald Trump because he had killed Soleimani, who was one of the top Iranians. And the Secret Service comes out and says, well, you know, we were aware of the alert and we gave Trump more resources. Well, what does that mean, more resources? Was it more Secret Service agents? Was it more equipment? Well, it wasn't enough. And expect more of these leaks coming out into the media and try to form some kind of narrative. But like I said, the cell phone footage, all that cell phone footage out there really puts the government in a position where it's going to be really, really hard for them to mislead the American people. The other thing you have is that, all these reports about the shooter, not even going to mention his name. It's not worthwhile. They were saying it's a Republican, but he donated to liberal organizations. Now, remember, the funny thing is that they said he was a registered Republican, but was he part of that move by the Democrats to have people register as Republicans so they can vote in primaries to vote for the weakest candidate? Could have been that. But all these stories are going to come out about the shooter. I'm not quite sure what to believe at this point. Other stories came out about him being apolitical, but then there's other stories about him not liking Donald Trump and getting arguments with classmates about not liking Donald Trump. And here's another story that just came out, and this is from the Gateway Pundit. Headline says, Trump would-be assassin had 2 cell phones and 3 encrypted accounts overseas. Well, what does that mean? Do you have 3 cell phone accounts overseas? Did he have 3 bank accounts overseas? And why? And this is something to be looked into. Now, the one thing that the FBI does have to worry about are whistleblowers. And they're probably very sensitive to the whistleblowers that they potentially can have inside the Bureau. And it's going to make it much harder for them to weave a story. Now, I think the FBI is going to resist anything to come out with the truth about this shooter, just like they did with the shooter, the transsexual shooter that shot up that Christian school. So right now, we may never know about the motives of this shooter. Right now. May change when Trump gets in office. And speaking of whistleblowers, I want to read an article here. And it's from the New York Post. And the headline says, Secret Service had little resources to cover Trump rally after NATO summit. Whistleblower. The Secret Service had little resources to cover the July 13th campaign rally where former President Donald Trump was nearly assassinated in Pennsylvania after the conclusion of a NATO summit in Washington, D.C., according to a congressional whistleblower. And if there's anything that indicates the agenda of Washington, is this right here. What's more important, protecting members of NATO or protecting a former president of the United States and future president of the United States? But when you're a globalist, the priority is to other people, not the people of your own country. And this is just an indication of this. So let's see where this goes. And in light of this, what are we to think when it's been reported that the Donald Trump security detail has been asking for more resources, but have been denied by the Biden administration? Oh, and by the way, did you know that the Biden administration also denied RFK Jr. Secret Service protection? His uncle was assassinated. His father was assassinated. There's crazy people out there, and the Biden administration denied RFK Jr. protection. So all of this raises so much question. What's the agenda of the Secret Service? What's the agenda of the White House? How could we have this many failures? Now, one last thing on this topic. I just want to talk about the Secret Service agents that were surrounding Donald Trump. And I saw the assassination attempt on TV. And as much as I was shocked by the events, I was also shocked by the Secret Service agents. They're just not the Secret Service agents that I remember them as. Now, I knew of a couple of classmates of mine in college that went into the Secret Service. They were football players, big burly guys that were trained to work under pressurized situations. They had great hand-eye coordination. They were fast. They were big. They were tall. That's not what I saw around Donald Trump. And then there's been the focus of this one female Secret Service agents that apparently couldn't holster her gun. It was such a pressurized situation that she just appeared that she panicked, just couldn't holster her gun. Now, two things I want to know is that, you have a president that's 6'3", 6'4". Why do they have Secret Service agents that are short? A taller guy can protect Donald Trump than a shorter person. That's a fact. Were these the best and the brightest of the Secret Service? I don't know. And particularly when we've got these DEI movements within corporations and government, you got to think in the back of your mind that maybe these aren't the best. But that's got to be investigated. So we shall see. So Judge Aileen Cannon dismissed the government's case against Donald Trump in Mar-a-Lago. And her justification for the dismissal was that the special prosecutor, Jack Smith, wasn't appointed by Congress. The Constitution requires that a special prosecutor be appointed by Congress. And this wasn't the case with Jack Smith. He was working overseas in The Hague. And Merrick Garland just decided that, oh, you're the special prosecutor. Just bypass the Constitution. So Merrick Garland just disregarded the Constitution and appointed Jack Smith. And now this could also have an impact on Donald Trump's case in Washington about the insurrection. But remember, Donald Trump, during his convention speech last night, he mentioned that if Joe Biden and the Democrats really want to de-escalate things, drop all of these cases. It's all lawfare. American people know this is lawfare. Stop demonizing Donald Trump. Stop making things up about Donald Trump. Stop calling him a threat to democracy. Stop telling people that he said there's going to be a bloodbath in the streets if he doesn't get elected. Stop calling him a racist. But I don't think the Democrats are going to do it. Well, right now they're focused on other things right now, but at some point they're just going to resurrect all this stuff. Because that's all they got, and they don't care the repercussions of demonizing your political opponents. But this decision is good news. So there's been reports that Joe Biden is going to step aside this weekend as the Democrats' presidential candidate. It's been reported that Obama visited him and said, Joe, you got to go. Time to go, Joe. But Joe doesn't want to go. Jill doesn't want to go. So what do? They're in a quandary right now. They really are. And I'm quite happy about it. They're in chaos. They don't know who their candidate's going to be. They don't know what's going to happen at the convention. Although they're working on behind the scenes to try to rig the system to get rid of Joe. There's the 25th Amendment. So we'll see. All I know is it is still going to be a tough race. Whoever they pick, these Democrats will do anything to retain their power. And in their minds, they couldn't care less who the president is. As long as you have the deep state, the bureaucrats, those that donate in control of Washington. But again, don't get overconfident about this. This is not a lock for Donald Trump right now, and you have to do everything you can to get out and vote, get your friends to vote, donate if you can, and nothing should be taken for granted. And with that said, thank you very much for listening. It's been a historic week, and I will see you on Saturday.